about that. I find this a lot better because I have the AI set up and everything so that I send all everybody that I have meetings with, I send them notes of the meeting and all that stuff afterwards. So
I like it.
before I always had to keep notes, and it's hard to focus on the conversation if you're sitting there scratching notes down throughout the conversation, you know.
Oh
It's
yeah,
one thing I hated when I was a counselor, was having to keep notes, you know.
yeah. I can imagine that would you take your time away from the focus because they're just going to keep talking, and then you're going to have to be, and then you're going to be behind. I've thought about that a
Uh,
lot in the
yeah.
past. I appreciate that you're willing to come on here. This is
Uh,
it's a kind of a new venture for me. I've done a radio podcast years ago, but I want to start doing this video, so this could
okay.
be a newer thing for me. And I understand that. So I want you to tell me, like, because I haven't really got the understanding of what the unmarried father is, like how you got involved with it.
Okay, well, Ryan started it out with as you may have gathered, he was, he and his girlfriend were living together and planning to get, or he thought they were planning to get married. Turns out she had no thoughts of that. Um,
Okay,
you
yeah, I didn't
know,
know his
she,
full backstory.
yeah, she got pregnant, and as soon as she found out she was pregnant, she's like, you know what? I'm gonna move back in with my mother.
God,
So he was like, but. So
yeah.
you can probably tell by his post, he was heartbroken. You know, I mean, he found out he was going to have a daughter. I mean, he didn't have a father in his life. His mother, he had a single mother that raised him, and
Mm,
he was just looking forward to being a father. You know, like
yeah,
being what he never had.
I completely understand.
So when that happened to him, it prompted him to, get involved with the fathers' rights movement, where that's where he and I met. I was running their crisis hotline.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Yeah, so and I also was one of the main people that controlled their main page. But things have changed over the years, and I found myself in conflict with the new regime after Tom Fiddler, who founded it, stepped away, and some other people
Mm.
came in, and they asked me to serve as the executive director, and I was like, I ain't your man. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not an executive director.
Just wasn't your slice of the pie that you were looking for. No,
No, no, no, no, no.
no.
I'm really good at what I do, but if I was trying to be an executive director of an organization like that, I couldn't do what I do,
You
you
wouldn't be.
know?
I wouldn't be able to focus your time. So, what exactly do you specifically do?
Well, let me put it this way. The last 2 days I've had 14 phone calls like this with fathers who are going through high conflict custody and divorce situations, and I just help guide them through it. Um, I've got guys who are, you know, probably my star client is a he's he's got seven children he hasn't seen in he's seen a couple of them a few times in the last 6 years.
That's terrible.
Yeah, the story is hideous. I mean, it's absolutely hideous. She was actually in jail for assaulting him. She's got a felony on her record. She got out of jail and started doing supervised visitation and stuff, getting the chick back into the children's lives. He was, being a good person, letting her back in their lives and everything. And the first weekend that she had overnight, she disappeared with him.
And left the state, and
Yep,
or
yep, just poof, gone. She absconded with him. It's taken him 6 years. He finally, in January, goes back into court to try to get some sort of visitation with him. At this point, things have gotten so messy and screwed up. I mean, you know, he stepped on his own dick essentially when it came time to go back and when he found her, when he
hmm,
tracked her down and he got dragged her into court, he was like, "Well, I'm right. She's wrong. The judge is going to see that." He didn't even get an attorney.
uh,
And he
yeah,
walked in there and he says, he basically looked at the judge and he says, "Look, you asshole, you need to give me my damn children back. That woman is a maniac and she tried to kill me." And he just went off and acted like a complete lunatic in front of the judge. And the judge said, "Get this man out of my courtroom."
he didn't
Gave
have
gave full custody to the wife.
he didn't have that decorum that they demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's taken him. He's got. It's funny. All the rulings that judge made that day, including child support and everything else, everything except custody, got reversed. He's actually got a $30,000, well, just shy of $30,000 judgment against the ex for unjust enrichment on child support. I've never seen anybody else pull that off. He's reversed everything except the custody. Hasn't been able to get that fixed. Um, and that's partially because she's had full custody of those kids long enough now that they're all badly alienated. When a judge talks to them or a guardian ad litem talks to them, anybody talks to them, they're like they hate their father, they want him to die, and
Yeah,
you know,
mine's not that bad, but it's pretty. It's close. More so with my son than my daughter,
I'm sorry.
and they're
Um,
16 and 14, and
Oh,
that
I
it,
know how that feels. I know how that feels from a personal basis. My oldest two are 38 and 37 now. Um, when they were 2 and 3 years old, their mother took off several states away. I got visitation back then in the late 80s. They just granted me every other weekend or one weekend a month, excuse me. One weekend a month, I was supposed to have visitation with them. I could pick them up on Friday and I had to have them back by Sunday at 6. I could pick them up Friday at 6. I had to have them back Sunday by 6.
yeah.
And even that didn't work because I'd show up and nobody would be home. So I took her into court, drug her back into court. Judge said, "Don't do that again."
Yeah, exactly.
She'd let me see them a couple of times and then boom, it'd be back to the same old game again. And after about the third time of the judge just slapping her on the wrist, I gave up. I basically saw them 2 or 3 times a year for the next 16 years.
Because there's
But
nothing you could do to fight back then.
no, no,
Um,
she'd gotten remarried. In fact, I had one of the judges that I had her had. That's when I gave up. Was when I walked into the court and the judge looked at me and says, "Mr. Pearson, they have a father now. They don't need you."
wow,
She'd remarried,
that's horrible that
and
the
I was
judge
just
put that out
a
there.
judge said that to me,
That's
and
sick.
I was in my I was in my 20s. It just shattered me.
Absolutely, I can't even
You
imagine.
know,
I'm
I
40
just
now.
walked out of that courtroom going, "What the hell just happened to me?" And of course, this is pre any internet or anything like that, where you had anybody to talk to. I mean, nobody to
Nobody.
talk to. I couldn't. Nobody could understand what I'd been through. So, I just dove back into my work.
Yeah. So I
Try.
understand now why you said you're the OG of the
Yes,
situation.
yes, I'm the OG of the situation. I've been around. Like I said, I've been. I'm also um, interlinked with all of the biggest organizations, Americans for Equal Shared Parenting, the National Parents Organization. Of course, was with TFRM for years. I mean, I'm part of a strategic alliance of all the major organizations within the movement. Um, we have once a month meetings where the executive directors of all the groups get together, and we have a big meeting to try to get everybody on the same sheet of music.
To
Um,
affect a change countrywide.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I never knew anything about any of this either until I started going through it. So
Hmm.
how many people don't know what's happening under their noses?
None of us knew until it happened, right?
Exactly. And then there's nothing you can do about it. There's hardly any resources except for your groups like what you guys have.
Yeah.
Uh, and then you're like lost still out there. Well, what do I do? Like in my situation, I couldn't. I paid for an attorney for a little time, but she didn't help me at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure that she was just there to get the money and get out as quickly as possible. And now I mean, I haven't been able to afford to. And it's like same situation. I've been to court numerous times in the last few years just on show causes after another, and it's like you said, just they give her a little slap on the wrist or say nothing at all, and or even and there's been a case where the judge kind of advocates in favor, like, well, she's just doing what a mother needs to do to protect her kids,
Hmm.
and I'm like, dude, I want to, but you can't talk back, so I'm like. Isn't that what a father is doing? Like, why am I even here fighting? It's for my
Yeah.
own joy?
Each other.
Yeah,
I was holding before the pandemic happened. I was holding in-person meetings all over the state. Um, we had one in Richmond, we had one in Fredericksburg, we had one down in Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area. We
nice.
had one out in Lynchburg, another one in Roanoke.
I recently I was at a football game at the high school, and they were doing some kind of thing during the halftime, uh, and it was I didn't understand what it was about until somebody told me it was some this girl that was a student there, 15 years old, I believe. She the whole uh, not knowing her gender kind of thing, and was
Ugh.
all this stuff, and they were keeping it from the parents. Even when they would call the mother, they would use the real name instead of the one that they're using in school, and went through this whole thing. The girl ended up like getting kidnapped by somebody and was sex trafficked into Maryland from here. And the judge there would not give her back to her parents, put her in foster care or some kind of thing program, and she ended up getting sex trafficked again. But if I understand right, she's back now. She's with her family, and she even speaks that she was confused about things, and she hadn't even told her parents anything about this whole confusion with her gender, and the school kept it from them and everything. And the counselors, I don't, as far as I know, they didn't get fired for what they did. Nothing. And then I just recently had a young man who lives in Lynchburg. He's like, I was a former Abmatic student. He's like going off, telling me different things about the faculty and that they just overlook a lot of things there. I'm just because I'm originally from South Florida, so a lot of these things it baffles my mind, and I want to speak out because I see how many people are going through in just the last 48 hours of just talking about wanting to do the podcast with people. I've had droves of people reach out with their stories and what they've been through in various different areas. Some through child abuse in court, some through CPS, and then of course child support, uh, which is the thing too. Looking into child support and Title 4D. I want to make sure
Hmm.
it's repeal, repeal Title 4D because it is the most
Yeah,
ridiculous
that's going to
thing.
be a huge, huge, huge hurdle though, because Title 4D makes the states billions of dollars
Absolutely, and
that goes
that's
into their general fund.
yeah.
So, I mean,
They don't want to
of
lose
course,
that.
some people point out also that judges get paid out of it. I haven't seen a single state where it's directly paid, but yes, I mean, let's face it, judges get paid out of the general fund, and if all the money's going into the general fund, then indirectly judges are getting paid out of that money.
Yeah,
So I mean,
and they don't want to
talk.
lose that income.
No, no. And in fact, that's why every time, I work with Mark Ludwig at Americans for Equal Shared Parenting to try to get equal shared parenting as
I
the
follow him.
norm. And, I mean, we've got 6 states so far, and it's just been an uphill battle in all the other states. I mean, we've just, because the bar associations are fighting us,
Mhm.
the legislatures themselves are fighting us because they squash us in committees and stuff like that to make sure that we don't even get off the ground. And I mean, it's been a pain in the ass.
I can't even imagine. And I've been following Mark too on Facebook. He's a really amazing guy, uh, and I don't know if I could do what you guys are doing in that sense. 'Cause there's a lot of effort in that, uh, and headache that I can't even imagine. But for me, I feel like that's why I want to do. That's why I want to speak out, have my channel, and talk and talk and talk because get the on that algorithm so more and more people are seeing it because eventually they're not going to be able to hide from it if it gets so
Well,
big.
talk to me about this podcast that you're thinking about, because I got to be. Let me give you my just before ask you that question. I want to tell you something up front. I want to be very transparent. I am looking to try to get a podcast going myself for what I'm trying to do, and therefore, I mean, and I just don't right now have the bandwidth to do all the background stuff. Getting it set up, doing all the, the times that it's like I do a live, for instance, I do a live on the unmarried father, and it sucks all my time away, and we struggle with getting the getting the guests in correctly, and I need somebody that's their gig. They like to do podcasts and they want to run a podcast,
Yeah,
you
that's my
know.
goal. So originally I started like a radio podcast, and it was through this platform online. I wasn't really happy with the way the platform was and the people that I was working with, so I stepped away from it after about 6 months. But it gave me some experience,
Hmm.
and I got to interview different types of people on different subjects, and it was just fun. I like doing that because you know, I'm the cable guy. I go into people's homes and do cable work, so I talk to thousands of people, and
Sure.
it's just become kind of a thing for me.
Which
And
company you work for?
oh, they're right down the road from you. Chantel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm a subcontractor. I don't work directly for them,
Oh, okay. Well,
uh,
that's fine.
but which is a lot better. I'm done with the W-2 side of things.
Yeah.
uh, but I like the work. Yeah, I've been doing it for almost 15 years from Dish, DirecTV, uh, cables. This is it's a good company and they take care of us, pay well. It's steady business in my area. Got a little bit of a drive time, usually anywhere from an hour to 2 hours for a job, but I'm used to it. But it gives me time to think about a lot of this stuff. And like I said, I was doing that radio podcast for a little while, and I really like the video, and that's the way to go to get information out there now. There's people listening to radio podcasts, but they're not. It's nothing compared to the viewerships that YouTube gets, or now X and Rumble and whatnot. And
Right.
so I love doing cable work, and I love what I've done, but I eventually want to be able to shift into being able to do stuff like this full time, and put my true time and effort into something that I know is going to affect real change. Because I feel like that's what I was really meant here for, not to just put cable in. I'm here to help people. I like helping people, and if I can get that going, like right now, down in our basement, we're remodeling a room so we can take over a larger room downstairs and use that as an actual studio because it's a nice little square room. It kind of looks a little rustic, with the wood paneling walls, and it'll be a nice little spot. Um, but I'd definitely be willing to collaborate with somebody because I know a team effort is. What's the saying? What the team? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Uh, the way to success is with the team.
Yeah.
So I would definitely be interested in that. I've had a lot of other people talk about some stuff. There's a woman that reached out to me recently is hoping to do a documentary about these things and people's experiences. Um, I'd be happy to help on that. But it's,
I've got a guy that actually does documentaries. He's out of Wisconsin, but he's very experienced, does them all the time. I mean, he also, he does a lot of publicity stuff for different fast food restaurants and
okay.
churches and all sorts of stuff. So, um, I've got a bunch of different guys that do different things, but I just got nobody that actually wants to, you know, figure out how to. For instance, one of the things you just mentioned, if you're going to do a podcast, you need to be able to be cross-platform. You've got to it's got to be on X and Rumble and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. It's got to be across the board. It's got to be something and there are platforms out there to do that with. StreamYard is the one
Yep.
that I've used the most. There are others, of course. But I got to be honest with you. Like I said, I mean, I've run a couple of Mark's uh, feeds for him out of when he came here to DC. Uh, I
Oh,
ran his stuff, and I got to tell you, man, that was not my gig. I mean, I have a degree in electrical engineering and another in computer sciences, so everybody thinks I'm the tech guy. Well, guess what? I had a brain injury a while back, and I don't like doing tech stuff anymore. It's just not my thing anymore. I'm medically retired, and I like helping people.
yeah.
I've been working as a counselor and a crisis hotline operator and things like that for the last, couple dozen years now, and that's what I like doing. So,
I yeah, it's about bringing the team together so that you can have kind of like how what was it Mr. Ford said, where he was really good at bringing together
right.
the people that knew how to do their specialty and cohesively make a team out of them. And that's I've already been running that because I'm kind of ADD, so that run through that stuff through my mind as I'm doing my monotonous jobs. What
Okay.
steps we need to take and what I need to do, and I've kind of like I sandbagged myself for a long time because I was, I don't believe. Okay, I gotta trust that I'm the right person to do this and that I can do this and get past that, that little bit of fear of sitting in front of the camera.
Well, you know what? You've got a good voice for this.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I don't know if anybody's ever pointed that out to you, that you've
No,
got that deep baritone, almost bass voice. It carries really well. I mean, some of the guys are, they're my voice tends to be a little nasally and annoying. I mean, I used to be the front man for a band and everything, and
nice.
I'm really critical of my voice. I wish that for doing this sort of thing, I wish I had that deeper, more resonant voice like you have. I work on it. I mean, but as soon as I get a little emotional or anything, you hear my voice kind of raise up, and yeah, that nasal tone invades because I get this great big old schnoz.
When doing the cable work for all these years, you just kind of go in and you're just doing your thing, and people talk to you. And I've had many people just pouring out things about their life, and then they just kind of stop and they're like, "I don't even know why I'm telling you all this. I don't tell anybody this stuff." And they're like,
Yep.
"You're just so easy to talk to," and I'm like, after I kind of studied it for a little while, and I'm into metaphysics and whatnot. I think it's more of like a natural empathy, like an empath kind of a thing.
Okay.
Because I can feel the way people are, I can kind of lead them down certain questions when I'm not even most of the time. Like if I'm trying to focus on that and think about it, I kind of like trip myself up when I'm doing it naturally. It just kind of comes to me, and the conversation rolls. And that's another thing I knew I would just have to get in front of this camera and just start talking to people. I know it would eventually just become like it normally is every day. Um,
Oh, I got to tell you, most of these guys. Well, there's only one thing that I want to bring up to you that's important, and that's that a lot of these guys we can't have them on camera, at least not without using some sort of filter, so that we can filter out who they are.
yeah, yeah.
Because and change their story, let them change their story up a little bit, certain details and things like that. If we're gonna, have people get on and tell their story, because people want to tell their story.
Mm.
I could line up tomorrow. I could have 1,000 guys lined up to be on your podcast.
Yeah, but we want
I,
people that are, telling, I hate to say it this way, but telling the truth,
yeah.
giving the accurate information because I
Oh no,
don't,
no. Yeah, I'm talking about guys that I've already vetted,
yeah.
guys that I've talked to and I've vetted and I know that they're legit and I've seen their court paperwork and things of that nature. I would never put anybody out there that like that guy, that I was just talking about that hasn't seen his 7 kids in 6 years. Man, when he first told me that story, I'm sitting there going, man, what the hell? And admittedly, in the beginning, he wouldn't admit what happened in that first court case with this judge that took his kids away. I didn't do anything wrong, and finally, it took me months to finally get him to admit that he he's my hero in some ways because he got so pissed at this judge, he showed up at the courthouse in robes and a clown outfit.
That is hard.
He had a junk car towed into the judge's private parking space, and oh
Oh no, that's great.
yeah, man, oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah, he would be my hero. I
he went off, and it's like,
don't blame her. But yeah,
dude,
that's not
man.
going to get you where you want to go. As
And,
much
well,
as we all
and
probably feel
that's
the same way.
and I got to use my one of my favorite sayings. It's like, do you want to win or do you want to be with your kids?
Yeah.
Do you want to be right or do you want to be with your kids? You got to choose. You can't have both.
Yeah.
You know, in a perfect world, could you? Yeah, absolutely. But this isn't a perfect world.
No. 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 I've This has been going on for me. I got an attorney. What was it? The end of 22, because I wasn't getting to see them anymore, and it was to the alienation point, which I hate to use the term parental alienation at this point because I feel like it's kind of harmful to the truth, because it's kind of like a euphemism that they're putting out there to try to create a new thing when it's actually already in the DSM-5 as psychological child abuse or Munchausen by proxy, and it's diagnosable and it's treatable, and it also can be dealt with legally for it happening. And it's not that I feel like it's not that hard to see. And if you're a judge and you're dealing with this on a daily basis, these kind of people, how do you not see this stuff? But then
Not
I'm
educated.
not educated, but I don't know. I figured just it wouldn't take an educated person to just see the patterns after a while. But maybe I'm just holding people to too high of a standard.
You are. You are. I've been to three of the American Family Conciliatory Courts conferences so far, and I've had like raging arguments with judges at those things. And they just refuse to, they're just like, yeah, kids belong with their mother.
I mean,
It's
I'm
like,
not
well, what if the mother's a
both
piece of
parents.
crap and,
Yeah,
well, she's still their mother. It's like, wow, really?
yeah, automatically.
And this is an overall bias that exists in our courts. And I mean, it just is. I mean, guys will point out, well, Judge Judy says that it's like, okay, well, Judge Judy is
Yeah, a TV
she's a
star.
celebrity judge,
Yeah.
and she's out there trying to, say things that are edgy and stuff, I mean, sh she's not your average judge,
Yeah.
you know.
My girlfriend and I, she's a really wonderful woman. We met through a local support group for people experiencing alienation and whatnot. But hers is on that side. It's the father alienating the kids against the mother. So of course, being a man, I'm like, men's rights and everything, because I do feel that the way society is and the way the system is set up, it definitely leans way towards the favor against the fathers. But and now the way I'm seeing things, I don't know if that even matters as much anymore. It's more like they support the person who's getting the child support.
Well, the father can win under a couple of circumstances. Generally, the best way the father can win is if he has power, money, or influence.
Yeah,
If he has any of those things, he can win it hands down. The other way would be is if the mother messes up, does something wrong, or she's the primary bread earner, and he's not.
yeah,
But even that's not a guarantee. I mean, my case, for instance, my youngest son, who's 23 now, he was 14 and a half years old when she took off with him. And just because she used the silver bullet, I mean, I was a stay-at-home dad. I'd had a brain injury. The reason she wanted to have a kid was 'cause she told me was because, yeah, well, look, you're going to be at home anyway. You're disabled. Let's,
well,
you're a great dad, and you didn't get a chance to really be with your older two sons. So let's have another kid, let's have a kid. I was like, wait a minute. You told me when we got married, you hated children and you never wanted them. She goes, yeah, but this is a great opportunity for you, right? And she convinced me.
and then
Well, 14 and a half years later, I found out she'd been having an affair for the last 13 years.
13
Yeah.
of the 14.
13 of the 14 years she'd been having an affair with a
God,
married guy she worked with.
wow.
And I was just like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. And so we're getting a divorce. As soon as she realized that we were getting a divorce, next thing I knew, I mean, I'd been a domestic violence counselor, so I had all the paperwork on my desk and everything on how to file a DV charge against somebody and all that. She went and did it. Used that.
Yeah, use your knowledge. That's how I got taken, because I was with a woman that was older than me and had been through a divorce with kids prior to me. Though I was there pretty much during the whole like blow up of it. Like after she had left, we met. It wasn't long after she had left that I met her. So I saw it, but then I had justified everything away that I saw because I go, I believe everything. Oh, he's a bad guy and all this stuff. And then I've actually had several conversations with the man now, and I just see parallels, and I'm like, okay, is it really me, or is it when you start, when different people start saying the same thing, and they're not related?
Yep.
So I got used, I got taken advantage of, and I was madly in love, and things just became worse and worse. And the decision to leave was the hardest decision I've ever made because I knew, maybe not fully consciously, but a good part of me knew that if I did leave, this is what would happen. She would turn my kids against me simply because I left her out of, uh,
Hmm.
you a sense of wanting to get back at me for leaving. And then there's you start. I mean, I've got pages and pages of information where you abandon us, you don't love us anymore.
Yep.
I thought I left you, not my kids.
Right.
And you see that more and more, but until the point now, and I know because I wasn't around, my kids were getting inundated because I used to get inundated like that from her, and now I know they're getting it, and they're getting it from the other people around that are supporting that, and to the point where my son not too long ago said to me, "I don't respect a man who doesn't take care of his family." You're living in a house I pay for. You're being traveled in a car that I pay for. The child support, none of that. Like, what do you mean? And then uh, the most recent court order I had, the judge gave me a little bit extra than what I was the previous order, uh, but not much. And immediately they couldn't. It was supposed to be where I would go and pick up my daughter from home, take her for our visit time, and then return her. Judge says, I don't see any reason why that shouldn't happen. As soon as the first time came around for that to happen, I get messages from my daughter saying, nobody wants you around here. You're not welcome here. No, I'll meet you somewhere else. Just words that really aren't even hers. And a lot of things. And that's just one little example, but I can go through pages and pages of examples of parroting words that a child, a young teenager is not saying these words. Even what my son's saying, I don't respect a man who doesn't take care of his family. Who around you said that
Yeah.
you're parroting?
Exactly.
You know?
Hey, do me a favor. I I'm currently, I hate to admit it, on the free version of Zoom, so my Zoom sessions are limited to 40 minutes.
Sure.
We got 2 minutes left. If we kick out, we can use the same link and just come right back in. It's a
Okay.
silly loophole, but if you don't mind, okay?
Yeah, that works fine.
All right. See you in a minute.
Okay.
I think you just broke a new record for being the fastest back in.
I know computers. I'm really good with
Yep,
computers.
most people takes them a few minutes to get back in. I was like, oh, he's already. I didn't even get a chance to turn my video back on and my audio back on yet. You're already admit him. Oh crap. Okay.
Yeah, my father was a software engineer my whole life.
Uh,
So I had a computer. I'm 41 now, and I had a computer since I was, wee little. Back when there was just Commodore. I had a Commodore in our house, and then
oh yeah.
different PCs because he worked for IBM for years and years until they did that massive layoff in the 90s, and then he started
Mm,
contracting. So yeah, I've had computers all my life. I'm good with computers. I'm no engineer. I couldn't do anything like that. That's just I couldn't. I don't have the mind interest to learn programming languages, but I can get around them and know how to use them really well. So helps me out in doing stuff like this when I'm trying to run, a podcast. Like I've had to learn how to do things like this. I've got OBX running, or OBS rather, running right now.
OBX.
Yeah.
Yeah, OBS. Yeah, OBS. Yeah,
Yeah.
OBX, not Outer Banks.
Not
It's
the Outer Banks.
OBS. Oh, it's funny. OBS is the one we used for the AFESP broadcasts.
Okay.
And I got to be honest with you, I'd never used it before.
It's a
There's
lot.
it's a steep learning curve. I mean,
Yeah.
you can do like I did during that first session where I just kind of cheesed my way through it.
Oof.
Like at one point, I discovered that I was using the audio, the mic off of the laptop that I was using rather than the one on stage.
Oh my.
And I'm like 10 minutes in, and I'm like, why is the audio messed up? I'm sitting there screwing with it, and I'm like, why? I'm not hearing the speakers clearly. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, they were doing okay because we had, monitor speakers up, and they were talking into the mic and the monitor speakers were broadcasting it loudly enough that it was picking up on the laptop that I was using to run OBS. And it's funny, nobody but me knew that something was screwy because everybody was like, "Yeah, the audio sounds fine." I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's not. Something's not right. I'm not getting direct audio from the mic. Something's wrong here." And I'm sitting there feverishly trying to figure it out.
I'm not gonna lie.
Sucked.
Last night, I my girlfriend helped me do a dry run. I had her out on the other side of the house and called me, and we tested it. And I'm like, I'm really glad I did because it was doing exactly that. I was trying to use the audio off of my webcam versus my
Hmm.
microphone here, and oh, there's
What
those
kind of mic are
things.
you using?
Oh, it's just a little ONN cheap.
Oh,
It.
okay.
I have another one. It's a really nice
Yeah, I've
the
got a.
blue, but I have
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeti
yeah the
or
Yeti
Blue
blue.
Yeti. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Those are nice.
I got one. I have got to break it out of storage and set it up. This one was ready and available.
I've got two of those like that. One's a Blue Yeti and another one's I forget the brand name. I put them away a while back when I started using this for my gaming with my son and stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna have to break them out if we do a podcast. This is pretty good, but I mean, it's it's a Sennheiser PX80, I think it is. It's a good the boom mic is as good as they get,
And the
but
quality's coming in really nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with it, but at the same time, I think that again, like I said, I find that the resonance of my voice and things like that carries better on the desk mic.
Okay.
It just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm super critical about my voice. That's why, trust me, I would not blow sunshine up your ass. For me to give you a compliment about your voice, that means you got something going for you there
I
because
appreciate that.
I'm not the type to say something just to make you feel good about yourself.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that a lot because it's definitely one of those things that kind of hold you back. Like, oh, am I good enough?
Hmm.
Do I sound right? Or do I look right? I mean, I'm worried about the lighting and the setting in here. I turned everything right, got the curtains set so that there was
Well, obviously,
nice
if we
little
do a
background.
podcast, I'd want you to have the mic or the camera set so that you're looking into the camera when we're
Oh
talking.
yeah, yeah. This is just the initial.
Little
Yeah.
things like that. But I mean, you notice that's how I've got mine set up
Oh yeah.
because I'm talking to guys all day.
Believe me.
I'm I and the first thing I do when I get you on screen is I move you on the screen. I move you up right underneath the mic or right underneath the camera so that when we're talking, I can look at you, I can read your, facial expressions and everything and hear what you're
Yeah.
saying, and I look and it appears like I'm looking right at you at the same time.
Yeah, I like that. I was thinking about that as soon as we got on originally. How you have that. And that's how I want it. I just the way the setup I have right now, I wouldn't be able to. I wasn't able to angle it just right, and that's why I'm
I
building that room downstairs because I
Yeah.
have a whole thing. I've got a poster behind that I've got kind of like a theme for me, and then I'm gonna put some words on it that was gonna be for the channel because going through this, like I said, before we got off, I was talking about the challenge of making that decision to leave, and it was very hard to do that, and so to push myself to that place, I'm trying to think the best way to describe this. I got this. I kind of knew who I was at that point. Plus another incident that I went through, and so I the. Did you ever see the Batman Begins movie?
Of course.
So my favorite line. which kind of speaks to my inner person, was when Liam Neeson is fighting Bruce Wayne on the ice, right? And he's kind of goading him about his father being weak. He says, you know, your father's death is, or your parents' death is your father's fault and all this stuff. And he's like, I've had training. He's like, well, your training means nothing. And he knocks him on his ass. And then he says, the will to act. That's the difference between him and his dad. You have the will to act. And so I even got a tattoo on my forearm that says the will to
Ah,
act because I
never
knew
mind the play on your name there, huh?
exactly. So it worked perfect for both because, you know, my full name is William. My dad goes by Bill. They called me Billy as a kid, but I didn't like that. When I was in between fifth and sixth grade that summer, I just something in me decided I don't want to be called that anymore, and I made everybody start calling me Will at that young age. And if they didn't, I would ignore them until they did.
You had the will, huh?
Yeah, it's and then of course I went through those little programs my mom had when I was a kid. It was like for learning. It was where there's a will, there's an A. If you
There you
remember
go.
those, yeah.
Hmm.
So her little things like that, and then of course the saying, and then hearing someone like Liam Neeson say that, I mean, it still gives me like chills thinking about it because he sounds awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
and I have a goal that one day I'm going to have Liam Neeson on my show, and I'm going to have him say that, and that's going to be like, okay, you got to let me have that for the show. That is
Yeah, I got a
definitely up on
few
my
people
goals.
I would love to have on a show. Uh, I think Jordan Peterson's like right up there at the top of my list. Of
God,
course, he's gotten so big now, I don't know that I could ever pull that one off. But
I
I
still
talked to
believe.
I talked to his daughter a couple of times.
Oh, that's still cool because she thinks she's
But
awesome. I'd love to talk to
yeah,
her. Her story
yeah,
about how she healed herself is fascinating on its own.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
she's gotten too big to talk to me now too, but it is what it is.
I still feel like I could get there. I've had just random experiences throughout my life meeting famous people unknowingly. From years ago, I met Rush Limbaugh accidentally. I was working at a country club that pretty much hardly anybody knows about. Uh, I met numerous people there, General Haig and people from Godiva Chocolate and whatnot. A whole bunch of people. Very old money. Um, Up here in Virginia, I was doing internet work and I met one of my heroes, a Dr. Stephen Greer. Do you know who that is?
Name rings a bell, but I can't place it.
He does documentaries now and a movement called the Disclosure Project. So
Okay.
you can, and he's got other ones that have come out, like Unacknowledged was one of the more recent ones. It was one that he was just about to launch when I met him. I was doing work at his house, fixing his internet.
Ha, 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 ha.
Didn't even know where I was, and I had to go and check everything when I was done. And his wife was leading me through their home to where they had the equipment, and I went in the kitchen and I saw this bag that had this picture on it that kind of looked like about UFOs, and I'm into UFO stuff, and I was like, it's not often you see wealthy people into UFO stuff. This is kind of cool, you know. But I saw the words "The Disclosure Project" on the bottom, and I was like, I know what that is because I've been following them since 2001, and I didn't have time to ask anything. She's moving quick. I'm moving quick, following her. We go through with the dining room, and the dining room table is like 10 feet long, and it's covered in stacks of books and movie posters, all with the same picture. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And we come around the foyer and go into this like den where it's like a library, and there's the equipment's in there. And there he is sitting on the couch just messing with the TV. And I'm like, I step back a couple feet and I'm like, whoa, I know who you are. He gets up out of off his couch. He's got this big old beaming smile. Comes, shakes my hand. Um, Ended up signing a movie poster for me because
Cool.
that's why they needed their internet fixed. Because in a matter of days, they were about to launch that new documentary called Unacknowledged, and they needed to be able to get access to see what was going on. Um, and my stepson, he went out there later and got the book signed. It was pretty cool. Um,
Cool.
so like little things like that, I feel, when I meet and make connections, just I don't know, I feel like the universe just puts me in the place of these people, and I can just easily get in with that. I've talked to his wife several times afterwards. Um, the at the time I was doing that radio podcast. I was about to have the director of the Monroe Institute come on the show.
Okay.
If you've ever heard of that,
Yeah.
it's a little more on the esoteric side of things about out of body experiences and stuff.
Right.
So she was the stepdaughter of the guy who founded the place, and then
Ah.
and her husband is Joseph McMoneagle, and he's popular because he's what they consider the America's first psychic spy. He wrote books about his experiences and whatnot, and anything that he could declass that was already declassified that he was legally allowed to. But he lived there and he was willing to talk. But that was right about the time things were getting really bad with my marriage, and that's why another reason why I ended the podcast because things were not working well, and I had to focus on that. And then it started, that relationship started devolving into from emotional and mental abuse to she started becoming physical. And then it happened a few times. And then in January of 2020, right before COVID hit, it was like the last straw. I mean, full on punching. And I'm just doing this number. Um, and I was like, I've had enough. I'm done with that. And
Yeah.
the judges wouldn't help. They wouldn't remove her, even though she had been assaulting me. Even the police report, police found me with bruises and whatnot. Wouldn't remove her, and said, "Well, we're both supposed to stay in the house." How the hell? They're like, even the police are like, "We don't understand this. This makes no sense." And she kept calling the police over petty little things, and finally they said, "If you call us one more time, we're gonna arrest both of you and have CPS pick up your kids." And the next morning, when another officer was there delivering something, it was one from the previous night, and he said the same thing that the other officer said. And I said, "Man, you've been here multiple times. You see what's going on." I was like, "What am I supposed to do?" He's like, "Honestly, if I were you, I would get everything you care about in this house and run for your life because she's trying to get you locked up or killed." And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was just yeah, in survival mode. And literally in 2 hours, I packed up everything I could fit into this minivan I was using for work, grabbed my husky, and we went and lived in a empty parking lot for about a month in the middle of winter, just to get away from the violence. And then that was when she went in. Oh, now I need Tanif because he abandoned us in less than 30 days. You know, I was still, I went to the school to see my kids, so they knew I wasn't gone. They were in elementary school at the time. But that was, oh, you're scaring them. You're doing all this horrible stuff because I went to see them. No, I went to see them
Yeah.
without you there. That was the problem.
Hmm.
And it's gotten worse. And the courts finally got that attorney. I was like, I want to fight, but it doesn't help at all. It's only made it worse. They put me in jail because I was behind $250 on child support. And it was going to be for 6 months.
Wow.
I was like, what? And
Just
then
wow.
yeah, this was when they had me in a holding cell, uh, and my attorney comes in and she's like, you might be able to have like 30 days to pay your purge as they call it,
Yep.
or you're gonna go to jail or whatever, and it's gonna be the 6 months. And I was like, well, for one, you need to tell them like, if I go to jail for 6 months, who's gonna pay the mortgage at the house she's living at? Didn't care. And then I was like, well, can I at least have that, the 30 days? Let me give you 30 days to pay this. So, this is silly. And she came back and said, well, they said the mother said no. When is a legal decision up to the mother and not the
Yeah.
judge? But you can't do anything about it. You can't speak out. Uh, you can't have a camera. You're not allowed to have cameras. It's our policy. You can't have
Nope.
a camera in the courtroom. I'm like, what are you trying to hide? From as I was learning about laws in the country, there was this thing that all courts in the country are supposed to be courts of record. Administrative courts apparently are not. I'm like,
Nope.
why not? Well, you wouldn't record something unless you were trying to hide something. So,
Yeah. The other
disillusioned.
shock for most people is to discover the Constitution holds no sway whatsoever in family court.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Which makes no sense. Then what's the point of the Constitution?
Family court has been running independent of the Constitution for almost 200 years.
Yeah,
187, I think, at this point.
really.
It's yeah, and it's been doing that all along. I mean, that's how it is, and there's nothing we can do to change that at this point. I mean, barring a convention,
Yeah.
you know, it sucks.
It's that place of hopelessness. What could you do to
Yeah,
fight? And that's why I've kind of gotten to the place where, you know what, I'm just gonna speak out as loudly as I can, and to whomever I can. Hopefully, it'll do something. If not, I mean, because that's all you got is your voice in the end. It's the last thing
right.
they can take away from you. You know
Well, the more people that find out how things are before they end up in court, the better is my opinion.
that too.
I mean, because I got to be honest with you, I spend most of my day trying to help people play catch up because they didn't know when they get hosed. They're in your situation and other people, where they've already been hosed, and I spend an infinitesimal amount of time trying to help them bail out the boat that's sinking,
Hmm.
with a bucket, and I mean, I've had pretty good luck with some guys. Other guys they just cash in their chips. They just can't do it anymore, and they just walk away. You know, and
I understand.
unfortunately, we've also had guys commit suicide because they can't handle it,
I
and
was going to
that's
ask about that too. You probably know more about the figures on that than I do. I've been wondering that. I can't really find that online
they don't
very easily.
compile it.
Yeah.
They don't compile that data. Well, I've
Yeah.
tried to get it because it would be really helpful for the grants that I'm trying to get for because I want to part of my dad to dad platform. It's going to have a crisis line, but I can't get that data. I've gotten with the government. I'm good friends with Dr. Warren Farrell, who is the Project for Boys and Men.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
he can't get it either. I mean, he's with the government, I mean, he's working with the government.
Jeez.
He can't get the data.
Wow. Yeah,
So
that doesn't surprise me because I don't think they want to. I don't think they want people to know how bad that is.
I don't know if you know who Dr. Farrell is. He wrote The Boyhood Crisis.
No, I was
He
just
used to
thinking of.
be, he was a feminist back in the day.
Huh.
And after a while, he went, wait a minute, something's wrong here. And he turned against the feminists and became a men's advocate.
Jeez. Yeah, that's. I One person I've been following is Dr. Craig Childress.
Yes, I can send you pictures of me hanging out with Craig.
Yes. I might not agree with everything he thinks
Neither do
on
I.
political
He,
subjects, but when it's
and
psychology, he does know his stuff.
if you look at his feed sometime back in the day, because I don't argue with him anymore, but he and I used to get into it in his in his Facebook feed. He'd come out with this crazy. I'd be like, dude, man, what the hell? And I
Yeah.
call him on it. We get into these
Uh,
nasty arguments in
that's
his
awesome.
in his comments. So,
That's awesome. I like his information, and actually, my girlfriend hired him to, like, to evaluate their
hmm
situation, and so I've been able to read what he has sent.
I suspected as much when if I almost said something earlier when you started talking about the DSM and all. I was like, wait a minute.
You've been
Okay,
talking to Childress,
sounds
have
like this guy's been following Dr. Childress's information here because he wouldn't know that otherwise. I mean, he's really on. He and Dorsey are pretty much on the forefront of that
yeah.
as far as trying to. I mean, parental alienation though. There's a group of 142 professionals, the parental alienation study group, that is doing work towards parental alienation.
Hmm.
He and they don't see eye to eye, but
Yeah.
the way I look at it is I don't care which way works, you know. Um, I think they're actually way ahead of him right now because he's a little bit too much of a maverick. he's not really going to get anywhere with his approach. But I mean, hey, the more people we have doing it, the better. I
Exactly.
mean,
More people
a-
coming at it from different angles.
and he's super smart and really knows what he's talking about. I mean, the thing I get on him about all the time is like, stop trying to talk over people's heads. Which he does all the time. It's like, look, okay, I get it, but you're capable of holding a conversation with people without doing that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I pissed him off the most about was when I quoted somebody said, think it was Einstein that actually said, if you can't explain it at a fourth grade level, you don't truly understand it yourself.
I've heard that. Yeah. Yeah. That makes
I
sense.
pissed him off. Or I think it's even worse. I think it's if you can't explain it to a 4-year-old, you don't actually understand it yourself. And he was just like, I'll never forget. He looked at me and goes, "Fuck you."
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like,
he's a
"I
little
love
open.
you
I
too,
like it.
buddy."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he
I
and I
like that.
definitely don't see eye to eye when it comes to politics. No question about it.
No, I said I don't like the things he says about Trump. I'm like, okay, where you get that? I'm like,
Yeah,
but hey, don't gotta agree with everybody. Um,
yeah.
I
All right. Hey, I hate to do this to you again, but it's after 7, and I've got several guys that I got to get back to. I've been
absolutely,
on calls all day today, and I got a couple of guys I just need to touch base with tonight before it gets too late. Um, I'd love to talk more with
yeah,
you. I'd love to hear more about your story.
yeah,
Hold on just a second. Don't know how, man. I, s- I set up the Microsoft link to my phone. And little did I know, it now plays my phone calls into my headset while I'm talking. Got my
oh,
ears blown out just now.
oh my.
Sorry about that.
I
Uh,
definitely like to talk to you more about what you're endeavoring to do and
yeah,
with the
me too.
podcast and whatnot. I'm definitely very interested in that.
Yeah,
So,
me too. Me too. Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to build a team. I'm also working with Mark, we're also trying to build a team here in Virginia to go and start lobbying for a 50-50 law here in Virginia. Um,
I'm behind it.
I'm also working with Robert Garza on a time taken time back bill that he got passed in Texas. There's another one that
That's
he
something.
pitched me the other day, and I honestly I can't remember the details, and my mind's a little scattered right now. But it's another. And the other one is it promotes the idea. If you've ever, it sounds like you have called the police on a situation, they always look at you and go, "Hey, it's a civil thing. Go to
Oh,
court.
yes, several times.
We're not going to do it. We're not going to touch this. It's a civil thing. Go to court." And it's like, well, he's got a bill that he's pushing in Texas right now that I think will work elsewhere as well. That basically incentivizes uh, the police to get involved. It,
Yeah, yeah. Because here in Virginia, they say, "Oh, we can, be sued, personally for getting involved. That's why we don't get involved."
yeah. Now this is where actually there's a fine involved. The way he set it up, and again, don't quote me on this, and I don't remember the details, but there's actually a fine involved that if the other person is interfering with your custody and et cetera, there's a fine involved, and the state gets that money, and it goes straight to the police department. So they're motivated to
Yeah,
actually follow
interesting.
these cases and stuff. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All
Well,
right, man. Well,
I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you so much.
yeah, get in touch with me. I mean, anytime you want to set up a call on the using my calendar link, that's the easiest way to because I've done the back and forth via messages. Hey, I'm available at such and such time. You're available at such and such time. Let's try to, and
I do
that
like
just
that. I think I'm going to take advantage of that too because I liked how it worked. So,
yeah, it's really convenient and it automatically schedules them for me and they just download in there. Every day I wake up in the morning and I look at my schedule and it's like, okay, I got 6 calls today, and I
can you link that to Google, to like your Google Calendar or something?
yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Okay.
I do. I have it linked to my Google Calendar.
Nice. That's what I like then. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I used to do Google Meets also, but I can't do you imagine you can now, but I haven't tried it in a while. Hook up the AI and all that kind of stuff into that. So this is just easier for me right now because I'm got it all set up and it's going. And I'm hoping to go back to the paid version here soon. Like I said, I've been a little tight on money, so I had to go with the free version for a little while.
Yeah, I understand. I work a 9 to 5 job every day, so
Just got my 501(c)(3) going, and hopefully I'll be start getting donations in soon, and I'll be able to afford it. But right now I can't.
that's
So,
that's great. I appreciate it a lot, Sean.
all right, man.
I hope you have a
It's
wonderful
great talking
Thanksgiving.
to you. Oh yeah, you too. Yeah, my youngest son's coming to tomorrow evening, and we'll spend through Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we're headed to West
So
Virginia on the
cool.
Ohio side. So,
Oh, okay.
well, thank you, sir. I hope you have
All
a
right, man.
fabulous evening.
Yeah, you too.